Hello, I'm Anne-Marie Howard. Welcome to the Dennis Kucinich Presidential Campaign Update for Monday, December 3rd. The presidential primaries are really heating up. In this week's episode, we'll cover this and much more. With the January 3rd Iowa caucuses and the first primary in New Hampshire swiftly approaching, momentum continues to build for Democratic presidential hopeful Dennis Kucinich. He spent most of this past week delivering his message throughout the pivotal state of New Hampshire, where he continued his marathon 10-day campaign swing in a series of town hall meetings and public forums, pausing long enough to attend book signings and promote his just-released autobiography, The Courage to Survive. Dennis consistently connected with audiences of all ages and backgrounds with his plans to rebuild this nation to an America based on the founding principles set forth in the U.S. Constitution.
We bring down our cost of energy, lower our carbon footprint, and start to focus on the vital question of saving our planet.
He finished his week in New York with a live TV event, and then it was on to Iowa for two major presidential forums. First, taking questions from a crowd of 5,000 citizens who wanted to ask the candidates about the everyday issues they face, and later covering issues specifically related to African American and Latino voters. Finally, we'll bring you a commentary by YouTube celebrity Davis Fleetwood. We'll begin our report in the Granite State, where Dennis was greeted by large, enthusiastic crowds. According to a recent CBS New York Times poll, in New Hampshire, Dennis is virtually tied for fourth place and just a few points away from third-place contender Edwards. The foundation that the congressman based his message on was the urgent need to protect the Constitution. This was strongly supported by audiences he spoke to, representing a broad cross-section of concerned citizens, including undecided conservatives and independents. The impeachment issue was largely embraced as being both warranted and quite necessary, though there was concern about the Democratic Party figures working against it. Dennis Kucinich's ideas were enthusiastically embraced by the business community as well. Attending a Rotary Club meeting in Nashua, New Hampshire, he was joined by his wife Elizabeth, who's worked for the American Monetary Institute, where he deferred one of the questions to her about the new green economy.
What is the next curve and how can we get to the head of it, as opposed to being like behind in the world market? And that's where the Works Green administration really comes into being.
Congressman Kucinich laid out a new economic vision where Congress would reprioritize the budget away from a focus on continual war, eliminate wasteful privatization spending, and invest in rebuilding infrastructure with American labor, investing in sustainable living technology and education. At the National Convention of College Democrats, he won the respect of many students originally wearing buttons from other candidates.
He addressed so many important issues that no one's really touched on and no one has given voice to.
Dennis's rousing address presented a vision of a better America with a hopeful future, where the government would work as an active leader in bringing about a better life for its citizens, as well as a holistic view that included repairing the planet and becoming a living example of the values championed in the Constitution. Dennis brought the crowd to their feet. We go now to a commentary from YouTube video blogger Davis Fleetwood.
Residents of New Hampshire, with the privilege of voting in the nation's first primary on January 8th, comes great responsibility. Consider the following. The leading Democratic candidates have refused to take the nuclear option off of the table with regard to Iran.
Chew on that for a second.
John F. Kennedy was able to avoid a nuclear exchange with the Soviet Union, and they had as many nuclear warheads as we did. Do not waste your vote on a candidate who can't promise to do the same with regard to a country that does not yet have a single nuclear warhead. Hillary and Barack and Edwards lack the conviction, lack the imagination to say now that if they were elected leaders of the world's most powerful country, that they could not bring peace to the Middle East. Their message, heavily funded by corporate interests, contains this fatally flawed logic that to keep America safe, we must continue to intimidate, threaten, and bomb the world into submission. One Democratic presidential candidate, Dennis Kucinich, has the imagination, the courage, and the conviction to say that if he were elected president, he would establish a Department of Peace, keeping America safe by avoiding future wars. As bullies, we always have to watch our back. But under a Dennis Kucinich presidency with his Department of Peace, we need not fear karma the boomerang.
Take that with you to the voting booth.
In Des Moines, Iowa, Saturday, Dennis Kucinich participated in the Heartland Presidential Forum, including 4 other Democratic candidates, where a crowd of 5,000 attendees asked them about issues concerning their everyday lives. When Dennis spoke, he connected with the audience in a way none of the others could.
make government, imagine this now, make government the engine of sustainability. As president, I'll have every single department of the federal government work on sustainability. Transportation department has to promote mass transit. The housing and urban development, green housing, natural lighting, recycled materials for housing, passive solar. The energy department, stop subsidizing oil, coal, nuclear. Education, promote educational principles. I want to see us make a transition that's so profound. I want to create millions of new jobs. Think about this. Create millions of new jobs, manufacturing wind and solar micro-technologies, tens of millions of them, distributing them to every American home and business, where we bring down our cost of energy, lower our carbon footprint, and start to focus on the vital question of saving our planet. And it's time that we had a president who understood that.
Later that day, Kucinich participated in a nationally broadcast debate called the Iowa Brown and Black Presidential Forum.
The candidate that I have a question to is Congressman Kucinich. Congressman Kucinich. And Congressman Kucinich, is it true that you're the only one sitting up here? Oh, yeah. Is it true that you're the only one sitting up here who advocates a universal, single-payer, not-for-profit health care system, which would result in all 46 million Americans who are not insured and another 50 million Americans who are underinsured for being covered? And the answer to that question is, it is true. It is true that I'm the only one up here who advocates a single-payer, not-for-profit health care system called Medicare for All.
Also in Iowa, on Tuesday, December 4th, the candidates will be broadcast nationally on NPR radio for a live presidential debate. Friday and Saturday, Elizabeth Kucinich canvassed the Northern California community of Fresno, where she attended events sponsored by varied organizations such as Food Not Bombs, the Hmong American National Convention, and the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Sunday, Elizabeth marched down Cesar Chavez Boulevard in East Los Angeles during a rally to support a statewide call to action for immigration reform in California. We look forward to joining you next week for the Dennis Kucinich Presidential Campaign Update. For up-to-the-moment campaign information, log on to dennis4president.com. And remember, on the YouTube Kucinich 2008 homepage, you can check out all of Dennis's latest speeches and appearances.